RODTANG has looked largely unbeatable throughout the last few years, tearing through one championship's flyweight division and looking largely unbeatable in the process. However, his recent loss to Superlek proved that he is far from unbeatable. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about his loss in 2019 to kaonar PK Sensei Muay Thai Gym, a stadium fight where he was quite simply just out-techniqued and schooled. So, let's take a look at how kaonar schooled the Iron Man. He did this by using the left kick quite effectively, timing elbows as RODTANG came in, using the clinch to nullify RODTANG's offense, sweeping and dumping him whenever he had the chance, using the long guard to block punches, and just being more effective at scoring points under the Muay Thai rule set. So, let's start with the left kick. Kaonar is a Muay Thai fighter, which means he is a technical fighter. He picks and chooses his weapons effectively and is overall just quite a technician. He's also a southpaw, which means usually his most used weapon is going to be the left kick, and because RODTANG is an orthodox fighter, the left kick was absolutely a go-to weapon for him. And kaonar just constantly was using this. He was jabbing and moving, and as RODTANG was following him, he'd just chuck up the left kick. He started to kick over the check, hitting RODTANG's forearm or wrist if he couldn't slot it to the body, but just overall scoring points with it and jabbing and moving and kicking, just being effective and leading RODTANG into it. He would also very often get kicked in the leg by RODTANG or check the leg kick, as RODTANG is a very punch and leg kick heavy fighter. He's a Muay mat fighter. That would open up kaonar's stance and allow him easy to kick, so he'd either get kicked and then follow up with his own left kick, or he'd slide out the way of the RODTANG's leg kick and then chuck up the left kick of his own. And RODTANG wasn't really able to effectively check it and get the right height on it because he's quite a short fighter, but he also wasn't able to get the timing on it and wasn't able to catch it, as kaonar would often throw the kick either after RODTANG, went for a combination, so he was still recovering and he couldn't block or catch the kick, or after RODTANG would throw a leg kick, leaving him off balance, and kaonar would just slot in the left kick, just having excellent timing, excellent use, just using the weapon really effectively, just really falling into that Muay Thai category. The elbow. RODTANG is a very forward pressure fighter with a very good chin who swings a lot of hard punches, and one of the best ways to combat this is elbows. kaonar in the fourth round times some excellent elbows, as in the third and fourth round they're very important scoring rounds. So RODTANG is going to be more aggressive, he's going to start winging with more punches, therefore he's going to be more open for clashing elbows, and kaonar was able to land a great elbow at the beginning of the fourth round and an excellent one at the end of the fourth round, where RODTANG was desperate to just exchange with kaonar. And even in the second round, kaonar pulled down RODTANG's hands as he stepped up off the fence and nearly landed elbow. RODTANG rolled with it ever so slightly, but that was the second round, right? He's not going to be as aggressive. In the third and fourth, kaonar was leading RODTANG in, and that's why they were able to land with better effect. The clinch. RODTANG is a Muay mat fighter, which means he loves punches and low kicks, right? He's a very forward pressure fighter. He's very short, stocky for the weight class, and he thrives in the sort of close to medium range, right? And the best thing to do against fighters like that is to either be all the way out, like kaonar when he starts kicking at range, or all the way in, like in the clinch. And kaonar would often, when RODTANG starts to get close and close to distance and start winging punches, it would clinch and nullify RODTANG. And in the third and fourth and fifth rounds, this became really significant, as kaonar has already landed multiple good kicks, a good elbow, some good left hands, and he's scored. in the round. So then he clinches RODTANG, right? And a clinch can last anywhere from 3 to 10 seconds. And he can land, knees in the process, he can land dumps in the process, and knees in Muay Thai score quite high. So, right, he's ensuring that he can score while nullifying RODTANG's offense. And, like I said before, clinches can last anywhere from 3 to 10 seconds, right? You clinch 5 times in a round, let's say, right? You can very easily burn a minute off the clock. And, well, not burn, because that implies that you're not doing anything, but you can essentially nullify your opponent for a minute within the round. And against RODTANG, someone who really thrives in exchanging and just winging punches, this was perfect to nullify his game and just keep him not necessarily passive, but just ensure that kaonar remained safe while scoring his own points, ensuring that he won the rounds with little room for debate. Sweeps. A very effective thing in Muay Thai is sweeps and dumps. While they don't particularly score themselves, the show of dominance and superior balance and technique does help within the scoring. And kaonar was able to land a multitude of excellent sweeps, lifting up his left leg and baiting out the check from RODTANG to then sweep him out. It was absolutely beautiful, or catching his kick and just dumping him, or in the 5th round, just constantly getting that body lock as RODTANG was being super aggressive, getting the body lock under the punches and just tackling him to the ground. And there's a few reasons why dumps like these are so effective. One is because you're getting yourself up off the ground. That's tiring. If you have to, imagine someone throwing you to the ground and then getting up, right? Then imagine doing that 4, 5, 6, 7 times, right? It's going to be tiring, especially in a fight where you're also taking leg kicks, body kicks, punches. It's going to slow you down a bit. And also, in kaonar's case, he used the body lock takedowns a lot in the 5th round, where he'd essentially already won the fight. He'd been superior in rounds 3 and 4, so all he has to do is not get knocked out. But he can't really stall, so the next best thing is countering RODTANG's aggression by just getting the body lock and dumping him. And he did this over and over and over again. It's a very simple technique that kaonar just employed perfectly, and that ties back into him being a Muay Thai, just using what techniques are necessary when they're needed. And it's just really quite impressive. The long guard. So RODTANG, heavy puncher. One of the best guards to deal with a heavy puncher is the long guard, as it allows you to keep your opponent at distance with your lead hand and defend anything that comes around the other side with your rear hand. It essentially involves tucking your rear hand in like a boxing guard and extending your lead hand out. And he did this constantly against RODTANG, just nullify the left hook. And also, it's really important to tuck your head in your shoulder so things don't kind of work around the guard. kaonar did this constantly against RODTANG, blocking the left hook and any subsequent shots following that to essentially nullify RODTANG's punches even when he did get in range. It also used it as clinch entries to land knees or sweeps or dumps, or just to remain safe. One thing to watch out with the long guard is you have to be careful with uppercuts, so you just have to be aware of the distancing so people don't slot them under the guard. That usually can be countered just by rolling your arms and your elbows effectively to just block anything coming from under. But kaonar used the guard quite effectively against RODTANG, just nullifying most of his offense as he did throughout most of the fight. Playing the scoring game. So Muay Thai scoring is a lot different to MMA scoring, a lot different to boxing scoring, and a lot different to kickboxing scoring. Right? It's not as much of a 10-9 system, and not a lot of people understand that. Right? And that's completely okay, because not a lot of people actually go about the process of explaining it. But to just give a brief rundown, kicks score the highest, right? Or most of the time they score the highest. More particularly, body kicks, right? Leg kicks against ties are often checked, and they often don't do a lot of damage, as they're typically thigh kicks, right? So low kicks don't score a lot. Body kicks score quite a bit higher. Punches in general don't score very high because kicks and other strikes are typically harder than punches, right? Knees score fairly high as well, along with elbows. And typically, aggression isn't favored the same way as it is in Western scoring, right? Being sort of, not necessarily defensive, but on the back foot is kind of seen as favored, right? If someone's chasing you, why are they chasing you? Because they want to hit you, because they're losing, right? That's kind of the concept behind it. So if you're desperately moving forward in the later rounds, that shows the judges that you kind of need to make up ground and you're desperate, right? And that just simply isn't favored. Other things like balance and just technique is also looked at rather than just simple volume. If you have superior balance and technique than your opponent, that's going to be favored in the scoring. And the thing is, stylistically, with RODTANG, his style does not favor scoring very well at all. He is a big puncher, and he's big on low kicks. He doesn't regularly go for body kicks or knees or anything like that. So while he may be intimidating, if he doesn't finish his opponent or do, significant amount of damage to them in the fight, he kind of just loses out on the scoring. And kaonar's style in this fight, at least, was perfect for it. Primarily going for the body kick, and then in the later rounds landing some excellent elbows, nullifying RODTANG with the clinch, landing good knees, which score excellently, and then in the 5th round, being on the back foot, playing the kicking game, leaning on the ropes, body kicks, and then as RODTANG came in, dumping your opponent over and over again, showing good dominance. Also, it's very important to note, in Muay Thai, the rounds aren't scored the same. Rounds 1, 2, and 5 aren't typically important rounds, right? 3 and 4 are very important. More so, 4, this is due to gambling reasons back in the stadiums, right? So 4 is the most important round, right? So if that's the first 2 rounds, right, and you dominantly win the 4th, there's a good chance you will win the fight. If you have a really, really good dominant 3rd round, let's say you knock someone down, but you lose the 4th, it then kind of comes down to the 5th round, right? But if you win 3 and 4 in the 5th round, your job is kind of just to not get finished, right? And this worked perfectly in kaonar's favor. He kind of just went tit for tat with RODTANG in the first 2 rounds, kind of winning the exchanges, but nothing too significant happened. But then in the 3rd and especially the 4th, technically dominated the exchanges. And then in the 5th round, just stayed more passive. And then when RODTANG came and just dumping him on the floor and just buying himself time. So yeah. RODTANG actually went on to win the rematch with kaonar by decision, and obviously going on this run in one championship. kaonar did get signed to one championship, but unfortunately hasn't had the same success, suffering a few knockout losses and decision losses. This is likely because the Muay female style isn't favoured in one championship. The shorter rounds allow for less time to make reads and be more effective technically, and often people come out more aggressive. And the smaller gloves mean strategies like the long guard are simply less effective, and people are more susceptible to punches, and those punches are harder because of the smaller gloves. We see it a lot with Muay female fighters. They just do tend to struggle, which is quite unfortunate, but also kaonar is getting up there in age. He's around 34, which is not young in Muay Thai. But hopefully he does find some more success in his career. Now, RODTANG fights Takeru in the main event of 172 in Tokyo, Japan. Very interesting matchup. Takeru is very, very good. Almost finished Super Lek and showed an excellent comeback victory over Tanzin. But do I think he beats RODTANG? No, I don't. Takeru has shown little ability to block the leg kicks, and RODTANG, being a more mat fighter, has excellent leg kicks, and he was essentially dropped by a less than elite opponent in Tanzin, right? He made a comeback and that was excellent, but I simply don't see him being able to survive or at least win a decision against RODTANG. I'm not sure if the fight is 5 rounds. I know it's not for a belt. It really should be 5 rounds. but I do see RODTANG winning by somewhat competitive decision. Takeru will definitely have his moments, but RODTANG will pull ahead in the fight, having larger moments consistently throughout the fight. But I'm extremely hyped for the fight nonetheless. So anyway, guys, that was the breakdown. I really recommend checking out the fight on YouTube. I'll leave a link to that down below. I do recommend watching without sound on, as the commentary is less than ideal. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the breakdown, and see ya.